There it is. Welcome to the Ramblin' Man podcast. This is episode 1. I have a special guest today, Mr. Bobby at Babak's World. Just first podcast. I just wanted to have a guest on. Someone to talk to. Someone that's one of my best friends. He's starting a business, so it's a little bit of a topic that we can go over, but probably the only person that's been to my house since quarantine.
Honestly, thank you for having me.
But
So what made you want to start a podcast, man? It's one of my biggest questions. Is this something you've wanted to do for a long time, or?
that's a good question. I always wanted to do a podcast just because I like to talk.
Yeah.
Every time I meet new people and stuff, I always end up with a conversation with them that lasts longer than it should. Because
I've been on the other end of that.
to me, it's always like, I always get into deep conversations. I like to get to know people, like why they like what they like or do what they do, or, if they have talents and stuff, like how they got there and stuff like that. So, and then it's just good to know. Like, the more people you talk to, the more insight you have into a lot of other things. So, yeah. I mean, it's like, why did you start a business?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, same thing. Just passion, Yeah.
I mean, my main goal is that when I think about it, I always like sharing stuff with people. I'm not really the best at it, so I figured that the easiest thing I can do is just talk.
Yeah.
And I hope to one day just set a stage where I can have people on that have expertise in stuff that I like or am interested in.
Yeah.
Like music is one in particular that I really like. Because there's like really a lot of good music out there that people don't really appreciate or that don't know about. And like, to me, that's one thing I've always liked. And it's like, I feel like it's, like hidden gems out there that's important to share with people.
Mm.
But my goal is the same thing with the podcast. Is like, it's like an avenue for people to explore and learn things from they may never know. And even for me, like, people, my goal is to be an open channel where people can suggest things to me. Be like, hey, look, check this out. Check out this video. And that's kind of like a give and take thing. I give them something that they can explore. And it's just a way I feel like I can help share all the things that, like, I think are cool, even though they might not be cool at all. But to me, they are.
It might be cool to a lot of people,
It might be retarded, but even though that's not an okay word to use. But
Yeah.
I mean,
It's good to be an odd character, though. Those are the kind of people that usually, like, appeal to larger audiences. If you're just like a normal, basic guy, like, most people are gonna find that boring. So.
yeah. So, let's just talk a little bit about you. You're wearing the shirt, Element. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Element. That's my supplement company that I started in November of last year. It's something I wanted to do for a long time. I mean, you've heard me talk about it a lot. And I was talking to one of my buddies, and he had a mentor that was helping him with some real estate stuff. And she basically told him, if there's something you're passionate about, then you owe it to yourself to try it, And he came home one day and told me that, and I applied it to my own life, and I was like, I've always put off the idea of starting a supplement company and told myself that I would wait until I had like this massive audience, like from building up a social media following on like Instagram, for example. And I was just like, I don't know, I don't want to start it and have to start from scratch. Whereas like if you start with a big audience, you kind of already have like that initial customer base, And I just thought to myself, I'm just going to start this now. I've done a lot of like digital marketing and stuff like that, and learning about lead generation and building ad campaigns. And I was like, I have the skills to do it, or at least I think I have the skills to grow it. I have the knowledge. I've always been a supplement whiz, and I have the passion for it. So all I have now is to put the action and maybe like, have a shot at doing something that I'm, passionate about for the rest of my life. So
Yeah, I mean, it's something that you always like floated the idea around me in particular, and I always told you like, what's stopping you from doing it? You know, even if it's just the concept. Like for myself, um, I'm fortunate enough to have started my own business before,
Yeah.
but like for something that you're starting from scratch, like this podcast, for example, is like a lot of times the idea of starting it is the hardest thing because you're conflicted about, well, I don't have this, I don't have that,
Yeah.
I don't have the money, or I don't have the resources, and really all it takes is just the ambition, the passion, the hard work, and like being resourceful with what you have. As long as you start somewhere, then
Yeah.
you're always gonna improve.
Exactly.
Granted, the industry you're in is different because if you're selling a product, your product has to be good from the jump. But at least with the podcast or YouTube and stuff like that, there's room to grow. People that have been doing YouTube and stuff like that, they've been doing it for a long time. It takes time to, grow the audience and stuff.
Yeah.
It's the same idea, but you just learn as you go.
Yeah.
A lot of people told me that I should do something like this because there's been countless times where I just start talking and we just start talking about a million different things and they're like, you should just start a podcast. You're right, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't mind just talking on all day, but until this quarantine, it's kind of like, I have the time now. Why not? Which that's something for you is like you started your business and now we're COVID-19 day, whatever.
Yeah.
And you were just got your product and now you can't really even like put it out there like you want, which proves an interesting task. But a lot of people, especially now, like health is a really important thing.
Yeah.
And granted, you sell a pre-workout right now, but that's still a tool that people use to help in their fitness and health.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's been interesting so far, man. I mean, it's definitely tough because like the opportunity really isn't there to do a lot of the things that I wanted to do. But content is king right now, so perfect time for you to start a podcast.
Yeah.
Everyone's at home on their phones all day, just swiping. Engagement is up.
That's the thing is like I was telling you the other day is like, right. There's a lot of people out there that could view this negatively, but it really just depends on how you want to look at it. To be honest, I recorded a podcast by myself previously. I didn't like the way it turned out. But most of the podcasts I was talking about this, and it's true, it's just like, the perspective of the situation can be really negative.
Mm-hmm.
The economy is trash. Nobody wants to talk about it because all they hear about is COVID-19. People are stuck at home. They can't do what they want. Some people lost jobs. But really, I know that some people don't have the luxury of thinking like this, but we live in America. A lot of people do have the luxury of still making something happen. It's opportunity to really explore what you're passionate about, maybe what you're really meant to do. Maybe now you have more free time that you can really work on starting a business that you have gained experience trying to do, construction business, or you want to start your own plumbing company, or you play guitar and you always wanted to like share that with people, but on YouTube or whatever it may be. Is like now a lot of people have a lot of time on their hands.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people are stuck in the poison of social media and they get wrapped up in what other people are doing and the negativity, or wishing that they were doing something like normal, when really you just have a lot more time to really explore a different route right now. Like I have a friend and I told him that he should start a YouTube because he's good at guitar. He's like, hey man, I was like, right now is the time. You have a month or who knows how long. You could make as much content you want and just start putting it out, because he's actually really good. He's like, you just make YouTube, just put you jamming on there, and you could put out. He always wanted to do it, and he always likes playing it. And I was like, you should share that,
Yeah.
And I think that's what's happening now. Is like, there's two things. Is like the perspective that people have. I feel like a lot of people have negative perspective, like this sucks, blah blah blah, instead of looking at it as an opportunity to, really look within themselves and be introspective to like, draw something inside themselves. But also, a lot of people are realizing a lot of the bullshit that goes on in life is not important.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people have free time to hang out with the family.
Yeah.
Like for me, like my wife is still working because she's a teacher, but she has to work from home. So she's still working most of the day, but she does have time off in the middle of the day, and then we go hang out, we work out together, we take the baby for a walk, we spend time together. And a lot of people have the same opportunity now.
Yeah.
You see a lot of people outside spending time with family, and like people I think are starting to realize, like maybe there's a little more to life than just working a 9 to 5 like a slave every day. Like maybe there's more important things, sacrificing your time. Granted, you got to make a living, but at the same time, at what cost?
Yeah.
It just makes me think too, another thing is like there's a lot of jobs that people work at that you work a 9 to 5 in a cubicle.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of these companies are going to draw the conclusion that people work better from home.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll save money. Just because like they're dumping all this money into buildings. I know that some businesses they have to, but if you think about it, like there's studies that show that people are more productive at home.
Yeah.
And you're not dilly-dallying at work, messing around, talking to people.
That's true.
And a lot of things are now paperless. So what's the point of like having a place where you can print everything when everything is not even, you don't even need to print it.
Mm.
So I don't know, I think at the end of this COVID-19 pandemic, there might be a lot of positives. I think there'll be a lot of babies. There'll be some positives and there'll be some negatives.
Yeah.
I think the positives that I see could be really good depending on how people want to go about it.
What kind of positives do you see?
I think people would take health serious. We both come from the health industry.
Yeah.
Both being CrossFitters in the competitive scene and, in like just the gym setting. I think a lot of people take fitness for granted and they think that, that doing the bare minimum or very little is going to help them stay healthy. But, in terms of this virus thing, a lot of people even people that are healthy are still running the risk of getting sick.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, especially older people, are going to realize, like, even though I'm older, I still need to stay, like, healthy and work out.
Yeah, here you go. People are in a situation now where if they're not, like, fit and have, like, really strong systems, like, they're the ones who are more at risk,
And that's the other thing is, like, people are, like, so bored. Look, if you're bad about working out, now's the time to build the habit. You have time to work out.
Got all day.
You don't have to do anything complex. You don't have to do anything crazy. Just do something every day.
Go for a walk.
It doesn't have to be hard. It's just always be like incremental on how you do it. You're not very good. You're not coming from a background. Walk for 10 minutes. After a while, then go to 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then after a while, then go to 20 minutes. And so on and so forth. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that at the end of the day, people are going to be more conscious about health. I think that people are going to not take a lot of things for granted anymore, in terms of spending time with family. Like, it shouldn't take a pandemic for people to be appreciative of things.
Yeah.
Like, even of friends, You're stuck at home all day now, and you can't do anything. And that's when you want to hang out with your friends, just because you don't have the option to.
Yeah.
It's like you take those things for granted,
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people are afraid of like being on their own now,
And that begs the question of like the mental health thing, which I know is a big factor for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I read something and that I think it's very true. Someone said, a lot of people live their lives off of momentum. And basically meaning that, they have something going on in their life and then they're just chasing that momentum, and now that there's no momentum, everything is crashing down. And I think that's true. It's like people that are lonely and alone and stuff like that, a lot of times they keep themselves busy.
Yeah. So
they don't realize that they're alone. I think
probably not the most introspective people either.
I wouldn't say for everybody, but I do agree with that to a sense, because I feel like when I think about it myself, being alone is scary sometimes, because if you're by yourself in a room with no distractions, like that's when you're like really vulnerable to your own consciousness.
Yeah, you're forced to look within.
Yeah, you have to think about like, man, like what's going on? Like, how do I feel? Oh, I'm by myself. Is that okay? And a lot of people are reliant or dependent on having somebody to feed the energy off of. It's like, no, just be okay with yourself.
Yeah, something that I've had trouble with up until recent times. You know, I always had to have my phone on me, and I think it was just like, I don't know, I don't want to say like an escape from reality, because I don't know like what I'm running from, but just like, I don't know, just not the best person at like being alone with my thoughts.
I feel like it's something that you have to get used to. A lot of things I think are, especially with the way that technology is now, and like how we are always, we always have frequencies, and we have to drown it out. I think that's another thing that I've realized is like if I go out on a walk or something with no music or anything, and like it's just the sounds around me, it's actually really interesting, because like you're walking, you're just listening to the frequencies that are just naturally around you, which aren't like drowning you, and like you almost can like think clearly.
Yeah, I've been going on runs like most mornings of the week, and I haven't been wearing earphones like normal. Like I used to have to be blasting music like no matter how long the run was, and lately like I've been going on these runs without music, and the whole time I'm just thinking about life. It's crazy. And then I catch myself like a mile in, like just completely somewhere else. Like wow, like it's like really good like creative time and thought time for me.
Yeah, and it's just the idea that you always have to be distracted. It goes back to being by yourself. Like, you know, I think it's healthy to sometimes, you know, seclude yourself in a way where you can really look within yourself and be honest with yourself. Like, hey, am I happy with myself? What do I need to change to make myself happy? Like, to be happy with myself.
Yeah.
To love myself. A lot of people just don't love themselves. Like, how can you love someone? Like, it's the easiest thing to think about is like, you know, loving somebody, you have to love yourself first.
Yeah.
And a lot of people struggle to love themselves because they see all these flaws. But once you can accept who you are now and that you're working towards who you want to be, then you can love yourself, because you're like, I know I'm doing what I need to get better. So, I mean, yeah, like the loneliness thing is like, I think it's just like people are scared to battle themselves. A lot of times it feels like, you know, you're battling demons. It's like the negativity. Sometimes it's stuff that we don't even realize is just not even our fault. A lot of times it's stuff that's, we just were growing up, and the way that we were treated, and trauma, whether we view it as trauma or not. You know, where you could have been growing up and your dad said something that hurts your feelings as young, that affects you into adulthood. Like, and you don't realize it. It's just something that's trauma, that's like something that's ingrained in you. Yeah. And it's hard to like, either you don't realize it because you were so young, or it's hard to be honest with yourself because it's something you don't want to think about. It's like, why do I want to think about something that was like, really was like messed up?
Some of the most life-changing moments of my life have been when my dad says something to me, but usually like in the moment it sounds like it was like, you know, hurtful and could cause trauma, but then it ends up being really good wisdom, you know?
I mean, I agree. All the times that I've had instances with my dad was, you know, I just always, when I was young, when my parents would discipline me, my dad would sometimes be a little, seem harsh, yeah. Especially when he was younger. Yeah. But it was always followed up with an explanation on why. I was in trouble, and like the reasoning. So
and even followed up by love afterwards.
Yeah, it was never.
We've talked about that. Both of our dads are like, I mean, they seem really harsh in the moment, and then the next second, like it's buddy again, and like sometimes it's like, man, dude, like, give me a second to be mad at you, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, it's like, it's just like, to get the message across, and then you realize, you know, like, he doesn't hate me. He's not trying to hurt me. The reason why he lashed out at me and said this, and it seemed like harsh ways, because he was trying to teach me something. So, but I don't know. Yeah, the lonely thing in this whole pandemic thing is definitely, I think people are realizing. Another thing is that it kind of bothers me a little bit is that the way that people are acting about. Normally, people are really selfish, myself included. Well, everybody. If we're all honest with
Everyone's
ourselves.
selfish.
And I think that it does bother me because I am guilty of it sometimes, but we don't need a pandemic, like I said earlier, to take things for granted, but also to check up on people. You know, a lot of people are having this message right now of, you know, check up on your friends. Like if you think of somebody, you check up on them. And that's what I've been really forcing myself lately to do is like when I think of somebody, I'm driving and someone pops in my head.
Shoot him a text.
I shoot him a text. Like, hey, what's up? Like, how you doing? And I think more people need to have that approach because like you shouldn't need a pandemic to think, oh, let me check up on these people. These is very fake. Like, oh, you're only checking on me because something's going on.
Yeah.
Like,
or it just gives you more time to think about those people. You know, depends.
It could be a two-way road, but
Yeah.
I think though that it makes me sometimes a little frustrated because I think people should be a little bit more selfless, especially with people that you call your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like, check up on your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Check up on people, you know? But like I said, I'm guilty of it. A lot of times, I'm the type of person that's like very... I don't really like to ask people for help. And I am a very open person. I'm a very giving person. But if you don't ever ask for help, I can't. Like, this one thing that bothers me is like if you're not open, there's not an open dialogue. And be like, hey man, like, what's up? Like, I'm just dealing with this. I can't help you.
Mm.
And then, I mean, I just feel like because I'm like that, like I'm not like the most like I just view it like I don't want to be intrusive.
Mm.
I've always viewed it like that, like a gentleman. Like I'm never gonna impose myself on people. So, especially like I don't read people's minds. I don't know what's going on in people's minds. Half the time I'm worried about what's going on in mine. I got a 1-year-old. I got stuff going on. I can only focus on one thing at a time because I have like ADD.
Mm.
So sometimes it's hard for me to be like, hey, like, what's up? Like, you good?
Yeah.
Like, you seem off. Sometimes I don't.
You don't pick up on
I don't
those
pick
things.
up on that, or
Yeah.
I don't want to. A lot of times the first thing that pops in my head is like, if someone seems like they have a problem or something like that. A lot of times I feel like, you know, they'll cool off, like they'll get it. I don't want to be the one that's like stepping over boundaries.
Mm.
So like I know that I'm guilty of not asking people or like talking to some people sometimes or reaching out sometimes because I get those feelings.
Mm.
Like I don't want to be the one that's like feels like I'm like trying to like get into people's lives because I'm like the most like unnosy person.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could care less. Like, I don't care what whoever's doing. I don't care what. Oh, did you hear it? No, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. Like I'm worried about me. So.
But then again, you're always, like for me, like one of those friends that I can count on, like if I need someone to talk to. So like while you may not pick up on it, in my opinion, like you're still always there, you know?
And that would
for
be
like
my
advice and like someone to talk to, you know?
That's my main goal. Is like I always want people to know like that I'm always there.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they seize the opportunity or not, you know, I think that's important. It's like sometimes, you know, when it's your turn to bat, you better swing.
Mm-hmm.
Like you better be ready to go. And like I think a lot of times people are like kind of scared to actually be like that person,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or they, you know, it's not hard to just, you know, help somebody out, you know. If they think about it in terms of like, would you want to be the receiving end of that? Like if you needed to call somebody and they answered and helped you out, you would obviously want that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just kind of like the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. That's like for me. Like I know that it bothers me that I see that. Like, oh, check up on people, you know, family members and blah blah blah. And like I said, I'm guilty of it too, but it bothers me because it seems fake.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially in this day and age, people just say things just because people will say that and repost it, but not actually do it, for
Mhm.
one. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
two, even when this blows over, people are just going to go back to their regular old ways.
Mhm.
Now, that's the thing that I think that's positive. I think a lot of people, especially with how long this is going on, are going to actually have some change. People are going to actually realize some things, because it's not just like a 1 week thing. Like, this is a long time to force people to do something.
Yeah.
That people are going to actually have some realizations and some changing happening.
It's
you
just
know.
whether or not you stick to it. Really.
Exactly. There's going to be a lot of people that just fall right back in line, but, you know, I like to always have a little bit more hopeful look in humanity. You know, you can always assume the worst and think the worst. You know, I think I like to be a little bit optimistic, and I think that sometimes just people are just, you know, they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They
Let's
don't know
talk
better.
about how some people, like there's basically two groups of people now during this quarantine. Like the people who are just giving up, eating like crap, not working out, sleeping in, pessimistic thoughts, you know? It's so easy to fall into that trap, but like I'm really just trying to like stay positive and like keep doing things, you know? What's the word? Get things done. Like, as
Proactive.
much as be proactive, you know? It's hard to be proactive during this, but it's important also, you know? So I
Yeah.
kind of started out strong, good routine, good discipline, good diet, and then I kind of fell into the trap a little bit. Started sleeping in, started, you know, getting negative thoughts every day, like why is this happening? Like I can't believe this. I kept saying like I can't believe this is happening. Like this sucks. I just kept saying it sucks. It's like you literally can't do anything about it, you know? So every ounce of energy you waste on thinking negative is going to get you nowhere, you know?
Yeah. It is challenging, and that's why I think that it's gonna challenge a lot of people in a lot of ways, in different ways too. Because there's some people that just don't have a job.
Yeah.
You know, they lost their job.
Mhm.
I lost my job temporarily, but
Mhm.
a lot of people are in the same boat. So, I mean, there's a lot of people that ultimately. I have this thought that always pops into my head, that it's easier said than done though. That's not the saying, but I mean literally the saying is easier said than done, and it's that discipline is freedom. And I always think to myself, you know, a lot of people think that freedom is just doing what you want, whenever you want, however you want. But that's a fake reality. It's not true. Doing what you want, when you want, how you want it, there's no gratification. There's nothing to it. There's no reward for it. Because it's all the time just filling an empty void. Whereas discipline is true freedom because you've mastered your desires. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
It's kind of like, you know, eating right, or eating, I don't want to say dieting, but eating a healthy lifestyle is a discipline. And when you've mastered that discipline, that's true freedom, because you can eat good to maintain a good health and still enjoy yourself from time to time. Because a healthy lifestyle is not a diet. Healthy lifestyle is where you can eat and then enjoy yourself sometimes. And that's like true freedom, because like now you're not bound to the shackles of your desire.
Yeah.
Or you're not bound to, I have to eat this way or else there's no way.
So you're not free from yourself, basically.
Yeah.
You know?
And like that's the thing that I always think about, is like discipline is freedom, and that applies in every principle. It could be eating, working out, you know, and discipline is hard. That's why I said it's easier said than done. It's like you think of like monks and stuff; those guys are disciplined, and they have nothing. Like they don't have TVs and computers and stuff, but they live lives that they're happy with, because they've mastered like getting rid of like the need to want to fulfill something that they don't really need. As like this is kind of off topic, but it makes me think like a simpler life would maybe be better for everybody. You know, what if like we just lived in the wilderness, you farmed for food and you hunted for food, and that's all you worried about. Life is simpler. You know, it's like the same idea as like the discipline to want to survive. It's like there's no more all these other variables. It's all stripped away. Now we have all these other variables, so now the discipline is like there's so many more discipline routes you have to master.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost harder to live now than before because you have so many things that are pulling you different ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It's true.
food tastes good. Yeah, I want to go to Crumble Cookie. I want to get Crumble Cookie. Like, yeah, I want to eat pasta and whatever. You know, yeah, I want to just play video games all day. But it's also you're really what it is just escaping the reality of that you don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, it tastes good and it's temporary, but you know, it's better when you actually do it from time to time because it's more enjoyable. But when you're not disciplined about it, it just becomes like if you go on a bender and you're just eating ice cream every night and Oreos and whatever candy and chips. After a certain amount of time, you're just sick of it and sick of yourself.
Mm-hmm. And you're gonna feel like terrible.
So it's like the same thing as like, it's no longer enjoyable.
Yeah.
There's nothing that you really are getting from it anymore.
Except for that dopamine rush when you sink your mouth into it. For me, every time I eat bad, the next morning I'm miserable. So it's like, is it really worth it? That very temporary satisfaction, you know?
My problem is when I get hungry, I get ravenous. I don't mind eating good.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I just get so hungry and I'm just like, I don't feel like eating this. I just want to eat whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever I can find, I'll eat. So if I don't have any bad food in my house, I'm not going to eat anything bad.
Yeah.
I have no choice.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm hungry, then I make bad decisions. It impairs my judgment.
Yeah. Eating a lot of good food it's always better than eating a lot of bad food, though, you know?
My thing is, I don't feel bad the next day.
Yeah.
I feel bad after. Like, immediately after, I'm like, shit. I need to make sure I'm not eating like crap tomorrow. This is like the first thing I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then
give it a couple hours.
I think to myself, like, okay, just don't screw up anymore. A couple hours later, I'm like, man, I'm hungry. Fuck it. I already messed it up. Like, that's the first thing I think is like, I already messed up.
That's
it's
a dangerous.
that's
a dangerous thought, man. Like messing up a little bit and messing up a lot is like way different in the nutrition world, you know.
Yeah.
Because when you just go on a bender, you're piling up all those calories, you know, putting yourself in a surplus for the week. People think it just restarts every day. You start from zero, but you're stockpiling up all these surpluses, and then what do you know? One night you go to Yard House and come home and keep eating, and then 4,000 calories in the hole. Crazy, man.
That's the hardest one, especially like you said it the other day. You're like, the one thing in the quarantine is having food is like the one thing that's like,
it's the most fun thing to do right now.
Right
People
now,
are just
like,
eating and hanging out.
I don't drink, so I can't drink.
Yeah, I haven't drank either.
This is what I think to myself is like, if there's any time drinking would be nice, it's like during quarantine.
Yeah,
it'd be just hanging out, having some beers. There's no sport, so kind of sucks, but at least. What?
Almost. UFC 249.
Canceled. Done.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really done much messing around since the quarantine started. You know, some of my friends have been hanging out at like little kickbacks and just drinking. But
how are they handling it? They seem like it's normal, or?
It's just an escape from reality, I feel like, you know? I feel like it's a really important time in my life to stay focused, and so I've just been staying away from that.
I mean, I think that's the right mentality.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it pays off. It's like, Joey said this one time in a podcast, and I it's like something I've been saying a lot now, just because it's so true. It's like one of the most profound things he's ever said is like, the universe has a way of paying itself back. Mm-hmm. So if you bust your ass now, and you keep busting your ass, the universe is gonna come back around.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way it goes. So, if you stay focused now when it seems like hard, it'll pay off. It's just, I always just say the trenches. Remember that?
Yeah.
But it's the truth. It's like, no one wants to be in the bottom, the place where nobody wants to be, where people are like dying all the time. Like, the trenches are like the worst place to be.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the place where you get the most work done, where you get ahead, where nobody wants to go. It's like the extra mile. There's not a lot of people there. It's the same thing. Same idea. It's like where people don't want to go. Like, people would rather just, distract themselves.
Yeah, that's all it is a distraction, dude. Seriously.
I mean, yeah.
I'd rather work hard now.
Work hard now. Work hard later. You know, I just don't think that I'll get a point in my life where I just will be doing something.
Yeah.
You know, like, in reality, is there really retirement?
There could be.
I think about this. I think when you retire and you lose the ability to do the things that you are capable of, that's when you die.
That's deep.
Not even physically, but mentally and emotionally and spiritually.
Yeah.
Because slowly things are stripped from you that you really enjoy or even not enjoy. Like, I feel like the older you get, and then you lose the ability to work, even though you don't like working, knowing that you're not capable of it is something that will kill your soul. And I feel like that's something I think to live a long, good life, you gotta have this mentality, like, I'm gonna do something till the day I die. Even if
the moment you stop working, you're no longer living.
Even if it's like, I decide when I'm 60 years old to do carpentry, and I'm just building shit in the garage. It's better than doing nothing.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, I always see that. It's just like when people get unhealthy or have health issues, and then they lose the ability to move like they should and stuff like that. Like, that's when people really start to end up down the tubes. But, yeah. I don't know. It's like, interesting.
We've got a long life left ahead of us to
Yeah,
work.
We have a long time, hopefully.
My mentality is I just want to work hard now so I don't have to work so hard later. You know?
Why, you want to play golf the rest of your life?
No, not golf. I don't know. I like to think that there will come a time when I've achieved everything I want to achieve and I can just enjoy the rest of my life. But what you say is interesting.
Yeah, it's just, I like talking to older people because they're experienced, you know?
Yeah.
And I find that people they get past a certain age, that stay working and are doing stuff that they enjoy and really have an expertise in and stuff like that. They might not even be the healthiest people in the world, but as long as they're like doing something, they live a pretty long time.
Yeah.
Barring they're not super unhealthy, obviously.
Of course.
But not the healthiest people still live a good amount. And I think it's like people that, you know, have that mentality of, you know, I worked hard, I just want to enjoy my life. You should have enjoyed your life your whole life, honestly. Like, that's a flawed mentality that I work hard now to enjoy it later. No, you should be enjoying life now. You know, the hardships that you're experiencing now is part of the process that you should also enjoy. You have the luxury of being able to do that.
That's true.
Because you could be, you know, we both didn't go to college, or we did a little bit. You know, we could be in college trying to figure out what we're going to do for the first 4 years. So then we get out maybe 22, 23. Then we start working, and then we work at a job we probably don't really like for however long, and then we retire. Or we can work at something that we really are passionate about. And even though it may seem like awful or really hard, that's like the beauty of it. Because then when it all pays off, and then you're working, and then you have a business, and you're 20 years from now, your business is built, you know, you're still working, busting your ass, maybe in different ways, but, you know, you look back and it's way more rewarding, you know, because then you could be working at that job from after, like, let's say you got a petroleum engineer, you worked at an oil company, and you made all this money, and then you retire, but you only have money. You maybe have some material items, but do you have something that leaves a legacy? You know, like a company, like companies that you build or something that you are establishing. Even like family, like when you have like when you have children, you know that you're leaving a piece of yourself that's gonna stay here long after you die. So it's just like, in terms of like the company, you know, you build something from the ground up, and it's way more rewarding. Granted, not everybody's built for that. Not everybody's an entrepreneur, but I know that for some people, like, they couldn't. I know that I couldn't work a job till I was however old to retire, and then just retire and be like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
That's just not the type of person I am. I know that some people, like, they enjoy their job, they love their job, they like what they do, they're an accountant, they've been an accountant for 50 years, whatever.
Small percentage of people who actually can say that they love it too, you know?
You know, yeah, and it's like, what's really worth it, you know? And the hardships you look back on and be like, man, even though it seemed like that was really bad, like, I'm really grateful for it. Because then you have a perspective that no one will understand. Who's been there? Who's done that?
Yeah.
A small percent of people that slept on the floor, or that were homeless while they started a company or whatever, you know? But we're fortunate to live in the U.S. and we live lives better than most of the world. So even if we're doing something that seems hard, it's really not hard compared to other people.
No, dude.
Not even close.
Yeah. And think of how much we take time for granted. I mean, don't you wish you could go back in time and shake yourself at 18 when you came out of high school and be like, this is the way, this is what you need to do?
You know, I don't like, that's like one thing, you know, in theory, like, I think to myself, like, oh, that would be cool.
Yeah.
You know, to go back. But in reality, like, everything that's happened, the way it's happened, makes
you who you are.
Makes you who you are now, like right now. So it's like, even the most awful things that have happened to you or that you regret, I don't regret. Because I look back and it's like, they're just pieces of me that make me me. Because if that didn't happen, then would I be me? Like, would I know what I know now, or would my life be completely different?
I think that's up to the person's job too, to like make sure that you see it, or that you get a positive out of every situation.
And there always is. I think that even like the most awful things could sometimes like seem like there's nothing positive that can come from it, but you know, there always could be something that can be learned or something to walk away with, even if it's something that you learn about yourself. Like, even the most awful thing, you know, failed marriage, or, you know, you lost a loved one, you learn something. Even there's nothing that you could have done about it or whatever, but you learn something from yourself. Like, oh, my mother passed or whatever. Not that mine has, but like, one I can give my, like, from my own perspective is like, you know, both my grandparents have passed. It's like, you learn about yourself. Like, you know, all the times that my grandparents, especially my grandma, went out of her way to, when we were younger, to help us experience as much as we could. Like, you learn, like, in the moment, you're like, man, this is the worst camping trip I've ever been on in my life. Like, this was awful. But looking back now, you learn about, like, you don't take those things for granted. Like, you know, like, and it's something that I can instill in my daughter, you know? When she feels like, oh, that sucks. It's like, no, it's just, you know, your grandma's trying to teach you to experience life in more other ways. Whether you seem like it was like the worst thing ever, or you can walk away with some things that were positives, that were funny, or whatever. And that's how it was for me. Like, looking back, is like, even though like losing my grandma isn't a positive, like, I learned something about myself. Like, you know, it's like not the worst thing in the world. Like, the things that I thought were not good. So Yeah, I mean, I think that it's important to not regret anything, you know? Drug addicts, alcohol, like I'm not fortunate not to not drink or anything, but I know that if I did, I would be in a bad spot just because I am an addicted person. But if I did, like, I could see, like, that changing who you are for the better. Like, if you recovered from it. You know, addicts, a lot of times, you know, a lot of them don't, you know, some of them regret doing it, but a lot of them are like, you know, like, where they're at now, they're like, I don't regret it because now I'm, like, a better person.
Yeah.
Because I've realized a lot of things. Through all the mistakes, I've learned how to be a better person.
Yeah. I think, like, coming through those situations usually can make, like, the toughest kind of people mentally.
Of course. Yeah, especially addiction.
Yeah.
Addiction changes people in many ways, and it's crazy. Just the idea that something can control you that much and that your life is just fixated around it 24/7. A lot of times they don't even realize it. It's just crazy. I don't know.
I'm fortunate I haven't really had to deal with anyone in my, you know, friend groups or family to deal with that, but it's a terrible thing.
Once again, it's something that you walk away with. It depends on how you want to view it. Maybe I was an alcoholic addict, you know? I walked away with a positive, you know? I don't view the whole thing and think that was like a bad time in my life. I just learned that it's not something that I think is worth it to do.
Yeah.
So my dad was alcoholic and addict. Do I feel like I could drink responsibly? Possibly. Possibly. I am have an addicted personality. Do I feel like I could be responsible? Yeah. But do I think it's worth it? No.
No.
If you hang around, I don't have a problem with drinking, but you always have some people that are friends, especially for me. I have some friends that I can hang around with that they drink, and it's a good time. And I have some friends that I hang out with and they drink, and I just think to myself, I want to go the fuck home.
It brings the worst out of some people.
And that's the thing. It's like when you're sober and you're around people that are drinking, you realize maybe alcohol sucks, because you would just see the buffoonery. You're like, when I'm drunk, do I really act like that? Like, what?
Yeah.
And I think the more that I'm sober on people drinking, the more I'm like, I don't feel like I miss out on anything.
That's an interesting perspective that you've got to look into.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm fortunate enough to be in that position. A lot of people are conned or peer pressured or whatever to drink and stuff, so people have just always known drinking. So a lot of people associate it with a good time. But like I said, the more you're sober around people drinking, if you can disassociate, you know, I'm missing out, they're having fun, I'm not, and you can just be an observer and be like, what's really going on here? I'm sober and making good decisions, and they're being idiots, and I'm babysitting. You're like, this is dumb. What's the point? Then they're gonna wake up tomorrow feeling like ass. Maybe not even remember what happened. So, what's it worth?
Yeah.
And then you don't even want to talk about the health effects that alcohol has on the body. It's not even good for you in general.
Yeah. It's definitely tough to find, like, that moderation, like that line that you shouldn't cross.
I'm a firm believer in balance. So if people drink, that's cool.
Yeah.
You should always do it in moderation. So you should always, like, don't go overboard. If you do go a little overboard every once in a while, and I mean every once in a while, as in, like, not often at all, that's fine, you know?
Yeah.
But if you're doing it all the time, what's the point? Like I said, the health benefits of it too is there's nothing healthy about it. People say, well, wine's healthy.
Heard that plenty of times. Still don't know if it's true.
It is, but in a moderate amount. And like people are so out of touch with what's moderate.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, how much do you drink? Oh, I drink like half a glass, which is like this much. It's like one serving is probably 4 ounces, which is like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're drinking like 3 times the amount of one serving, which a modest amount is probably one serving, maybe once or twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And that's for wine. Like you're talking about
We're talking
every
about beer,
alcohol
liquor.
is different. Like
Yeah.
one serving for beer is probably 2/3 of a can. I think.
Or just maybe a can. Let's call
Maybe
it
a can.
Yeah.
So it just depends, but people have this idea like I drink only a glass a night.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what kind of benefits could come from drinking wine other than the fact that it's like grapes, like maybe some antioxidant purposes.
It's supposed to be good for your heart. I don't know all the like
Still
scientific
alcohol,
stuff.
though. And alcohol has its effect.
I
on
think anything
everything.
in moderation can be okay.
Yeah.
So the idea is that like a little bit of it isn't bad for you. I mean, if you can get yourself to be immune from snake venom by doing a small amount, like you're just building up a tolerance. So I think that's the idea. Is like even though alcohol is not good, a little bit every once in a while, it will help you build up like a tolerance that's not bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting time. A lot of people are tired about hearing about COVID. I think that we still have a ways to go to get out of this. I don't think life will be the same afterwards. People's lives are going to be changed in different ways. People are losing people. People are losing jobs. People are going to start businesses. You know, it's just a cycle. I think that it's just important to stay focused, stay disciplined. Even if it's just, you know, like I said earlier, like discipline is a skill. Any skill takes time. You don't become, you know, a master overnight. It takes constant refinement. It's like the hardest thing to work on is your mental toughness or your discipline, because it's something you have to work at every day. So it means that you want to work on your flexibility, you want to work on your fitness, you want to work on your eating, your lifestyle, whatever. You just do small changes every day till it's something that's just completely normal. You know, that's why diets don't work. That's why P90X doesn't work. That's why they do work, but they don't work. They do work because temporarily they work. They don't work because it's not something you're going to keep up with. Because you're not going to constantly work at it to refine that skill.
Yeah. You have to do the work, really.
So discipline and everything that encompasses that just takes time. You know, patience, you know, have to be persistent. You know, I feel like I'm not getting results, but screw it. I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm going to still keep eating right. I'm going to still work out, you know? And then also being honest with yourself, you know? Am I doing everything I can to be successful? A lot of times it's the hardest question to ask. It's like we were talking about being alone earlier. It's like, that's sometimes the hardest thing is like to be alone and be honest with yourself. Because it's easier to lie to yourself. And easier to be like, well, yeah, I did everything. It's like, but did you really? Did you really? Like, did the extra dessert you had before you went to bed, like, is that part of, you know, being honest with yourself?
Dude, it's just crazy because as humans, we self-rationalize all the decisions we make, even if they're wrong.
Yeah, and like, I was running the other day and I was thinking about that. I was like, you know, like there's lie. We lie to ourselves. There's good lies and bad lies. Most people are on the bad lie side. You know, the characteristics. The good lies is lying to yourself to help yourself.
Yeah.
And it's not the way that people would think. And what I mean by that is like Navy SEALs and stuff like that talk about it all the time. It's that your body will tell you, if you're working out or running, you'll be like, I can't go anymore. Your body's gonna be like, I can't. Physically, you can't anymore. But your mental can lie to yourself and say, nah, screw that. I'm not tired. I'm going to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And it pays off. You lie to yourself enough, your mind will make your body keep going. Okay? So that's a good lie. Most people are in the bad lies. Most people are like, I worked out enough this week. I can eat this. Or I worked out today. I can have this. Or, you know, I'm not going to do this extra work for work because so-and-so's going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can put it in any category you want, but you like to lie to yourself because it makes you more comfortable.
Yeah.
But where you get the most results is when you're uncomfortable. When you force yourself in that position where it's like new territory.
Mm-hmm.
I use this story because I always think about it to myself as like something that's like a good, like check yourself. The first time I went to jiu-jitsu, I was driving there and I'm thinking to myself, nah, I'm not gonna go. And I started getting worked up. I'm second guessing myself. I'm like, man, you know, I what if you're the worst one there? What if like you don't know what you're doing? Like, what if they think that you aren't good enough to even do it? Or like, and I'm just like a million different excuses. And I'm battling myself the whole time I'm driving. I'm like, just get there. Once you get there, like, just go with the flow. Mm-hmm. And the whole time I'm like, I didn't want to go. Like, I was like, I'll just go another day. And that's the bad lie.
Remember with the kickboxing?
Yeah, and like the same thing, like happened with kickboxing.
It's like texting me, dude. I'm having second thoughts. Like, bro, just go.
Yeah,
just start.
And I'm like, the thing is, like, you're lying to yourself that I'll just go another day. Mm. But you're just pushing it off, and you know you're just trying to make yourself feel comfortable with yourself. And I'm like, just go. I showed up. I did the class. I felt awesome. I was like, I love this. Like, I love the challenge. I love that not only am I working myself physically, but I'm like mentally like engaged. Mm. And I left, and I'm like, man, that feeling I had was a good feeling. Even though it was like causing me like to like second guess myself and have like not anxiety, but I was very nervous. Like, that's good. Mm. It's good for my character. It's good for me to check myself, like, and be humble. Like, I'm nobody. Like, I showed up, like, yeah, I have background in CrossFit and I'm like a pretty fit guy. I'm pretty strong. Like, I'm a bigger dude, but like when I went there, I was nobody. I was like the most novice person in the room. Mm.
Extremely humbling.
And I left, and I'm like, man, like, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to do. And then when it's like, I was so uncomfortable, but I needed that because it brings me to a new level, like a new area to like learn. Yeah. And a lot of times it's just like people are scared to be uncomfortable. Yeah. It's like they rationalize it because it's easier for them to accept and feel comfortable with like something that's not true. Mm-hmm. It's like, I mean, like people that are like, well, I'll start next week. The best one.
Diet
Your
starts
favorite
on
one.
Monday?
Diet starts on Monday. Crazy. Your favorite one. Yeah. It's like, because it's like, it makes you feel better about the choices you're making now. Mm-hmm. Because you're going to make better choices next week. But then when next week comes, guess what? Monday starts off good, and then Tuesday gets rocky, and you're like, screw it, Monday. Yeah. It's like you're making yourself be comfortable with your decisions. Mm-hmm. So I think that, you know, discipline is going to be uncomfortable. You know, finding out who you are is going to be uncomfortable. Mm. This whole situation is going to be uncomfortable. A lot of people are forced into uncomfortable situations because they have to rely on other people now. You know, they're not as independent or whatever. But, you know, it comes down to, like, what are you willing to do about it? What do you want to do to better yourself? What do you want to do to do something with your passion, you know? So I don't know. This is interesting times. I don't like to think that things are always bad. It obviously is not a good situation because people are losing their lives, but you know, there's always something to walk away with. Like I said, that could be positive, and I think that people are realizing things. There's like people that are learning things about themselves, and it's always good to have that friction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like I think about history. I love history, and like one thing that's always comes up is, you know, we've in our lives, and we never had a real war.
Yeah.
You know, and war changes people's mentality, because war isn't good.
Mm-hmm.
We have this idea that, you know, it's easy to go to war, but we've never been in a war.
Yeah.
We go to battle with just one country. This isn't a world war where, you know, millions of people's lives are at stake.
Yeah.
And that changes people. It's like it's friction, and that's what we kind of have now. It's like we have people that you're talking about, over millions of people might be infected with this, and there might be, at the end of it said and done, who knows how many dead. You know, it's like a war. See, people, this friction is causing people to, like, you know, look at themselves and be like,
and hopefully to change for the better.
Hopefully. I mean, war has always left people looking back and being like, this is something that we should never want. You know, especially World War II. It was like people left that and were like, you know, this is not good.
Yeah.
You know, you think about D-Day. Like, D-Day is one of the craziest things ever. Like, when you read about it and hear about it and watch it, like, reenactments of it and stuff, it's just, it's hard to fathom what it was really like. You're talking about thousands and thousands of people storming a beach, knowing that they were going to die. And the only way that they were going to make something happen was basically just sacrificing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, when something like that happens, and like there's like thousands and thousands and thousands of people dying like that, mowed down, you're like, shit, like, this is something that nobody should want.
Yeah.
And now it's like so detached from reality that people think it's like, oh, World War III's coming, like, oh, like almost like excited, you know, like throwing it around like it's a joke, but it's not a joke. Nobody wants to go to war with anybody.
Yeah.
So I think that this is kind of like the same, not the same, but very similar. It's like, you know, challenging people, like, what are you made of? You know, this is a little bit of challenge. It's like, what are you really made of? You know, you're going to fold under pressure, or you're going to find a way to make it happen, you know, do something, you know, or change something, you know. It's like, at the end of it, I like to believe something positive will come from it.
Yeah. It's a good way to look at things, man. It's important to be analytical.
Yeah, it's the only way to keep progressing.
Yeah.
I think is like you always have to assess, reassess. How do you get better? Where can you improve? It's one thing on the podcast. I want people to give me some criticism, help me, tell me what I could do better. Do you listen to this? Send me stuff, talk about. Send me videos to watch and talk about, commentate, whatever. I'll do anything. Send me funny stuff. Send me memes. Send me videos. Whatever. Babak has his company. I'll let him talk about his company a little bit.
Yeah. Element, at Element Lifestyle on all social media handles. We do a pre-workout right now, and hoping to extend our product line in the near future.
So, if you're listening to this, go buy yourself some pre-workout. I've used it myself, not to blow smoke up his ass. It's one of the best pre-workouts I've ever had. Not just because it was strong, but not too strong, but it was like very steady energy. I felt like I was very focused the rest of the day. You know, he can get into the specifics of it, but it has nootropics in it, so it really keeps you like focused and engaged. But the energy levels never really drop. I always would have problems with pre-workouts where I would take it, and when you finish your workout or whatever, then you feel kind of like, wow, I need a coffee to pick me up. It's like I never had that. It was like all day it was kind of just running high. So I really highly suggest it.
Appreciate that, man.
Go buy it.
Thanks for the plug.
No problem.
Yeah. Dude, I'm glad you decided to start a podcast, man. You know, you're one of the most critical thinking people that I know, and you really can talk. So I think you'll give a good insight to people, you know, about life and, you know.
Hopefully. My main thing is to help people learn stuff explore new things, new music, new science, academics, spirituality, whatever it may be. I really want to do any topic or anything like that. But the other thing is I want to learn.
Yeah.
It's like my thing is I like learning things. I'm always reading new things and, stuff that interests me. Also, like I said, suggestions on things that I should probably look into because I'm open to reading about and talking about anything. I'm not a closed-minded person, so the more the better. So this is episode 1. It can only get better from here, I hope.
Yeah.
And till next time.